Hi, Nick.
I just realized that on that Google Doc. Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. We have 3 people. Volker. Hi, Volker. I go back to main room and tell people how to join this breakout room.
I think that announcement was.
Pardon?
I think Layla is broadcasting to all the rooms, so she just told everyone to scroll down to page 5. So.
Oh,
so I think
yes.
it's okay.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Just see how many people are joining here. Let's give them a minute to find the link and come in. So do we have a link to the recommendations somewhere?
Yes, I will put it in chat.
Yeah.
So for us who already here, and here's a link to that recommendation. So take over, Nick.
Yes. So I think the first question is, has anyone who's here in this breakout room read those before? Because obviously the first step would be to quickly at least kind of scan through those and see if you understand what they're about. So we can, I guess we could, if we put a note in the chat that people can just start reading, and then we can discuss. So what we want to know is the recommendation conceptually good? Is it well communicated? Is there anything that we're missing that we should add for clarification? Right. And then after that, we can talk about how we can kind of foster adoption of that recommendation. So we have 3 to cover. The first one is identify the purpose of your markup. So Layla went through this very quickly. What is it exactly you want to try and achieve with the markup? Second one is basically identifying how you're going to do that by identifying the entities and objects that you want to mark up and reference to. And the third one is adopt or develop a crosswalk. So we have a crosswalk that Layla talked about, and actually the speakers talked about as well. So maybe we should discuss, do we want to store those somewhere centrally as well? Right, that's something we could discuss. Hey, Baptiste.
Hey. Yeah, I think it would be good that we have those crosswalks available somewhere, of course, and that people contribute to with new ones.
So there's some work that Karen did as well, which was quite nice to visualize those crosswalks. We didn't actually mention it in
that's right.
in the session, but I think that's probably something that's useful that should be made clearly available on the RDA page for outputs as well, actually.
Yeah. Actually, there are 2 hidden slides from that master stack about crosswalk. Then you can follow the link from there.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we've got a few people here now. Yeah, so I think everyone should feel free to turn on their cameras as well. This is just like a very small group.
Yeah.
So, we can say hello. Link to the guidelines. So that's the guidelines. So I suggest people, as they join, just quickly scan those and see if they understand what we're trying to convey, and if the text expresses that sufficiently well, and if there's any clarifications needed. Hi, Alexandra.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, Ming. Hi, Baptiste.
Hello.
Hi. So I have published quite a few stuff on the web with using Schema. And there's also a compliance for DataSite. So if you also publish DataSite Schema, you also have to comply with their way of with schema.org. So is that part of the guidelines as well?
What, complying with all the different, I think you just formulate exactly what you're trying to express and map to existing standards. So you don't have to comply with all the other ones. You're essentially developing your own kind of profile of what properties you're going to use and map those to other schemas. So you don't have to comply with all the other schemas you might take properties from.
Okay, yeah, but I mean, like, yeah, it's that DataSite have created a schema.org implementation. Yeah.
Yes. So because we those data catalogs harvest metadata from each other, then publish that. So if you already know all your metadata in DataSite, you rely on them to make your data discovered by web, that's fine. But if you also want to publish yourself, that's the guidelines you can follow. And Google deal with that by in that recommendation. I think which recommendation it gave an example you have a metadata in DataSite, probably in some other repository. So all three of you embedded structured data and all be crawled and retrieved from in Google dataset search. But if you use the same PID for your data, then the Google will be able to merge these three records, combine these three records, say all these three metadata records are about this data. So yeah. So then if that PID is from you, then your repository will be identify the source of all this.
Yeah. We've done it. We knew that this would happen, so we've done it quite early, so we get the credit. DataSite. So you know what? I'll let you go through, explain the recommendations to us, and then maybe ask questions.
I think the plan was people just read it and see if it makes sense to them and if there's anything that we're missing.
Okay.
Sorry, it's a bit of work. It's a bit more interactive than the other sessions I've been to in RDA so far.
Yeah, which is great.
Yeah. So we posted to the group's website for a while. We didn't get much response, so we force people in this session get feedback now.
Yeah. So actually, I'm just looking you. Sorry, go on.
Sorry, before we submit in 3 or 4 weeks, we would like to get feedback.
We do work with recommendations as well. We do the first semantic recommendations, and what we did is we posted in GitHub, and then we created a smaller group, and then we asked people in the but I'm going to go through them now.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think, who else have we got here? Baptiste, yeah. Hannah,
Hannah.
Megan.
Hannah is Juno supporter. Is that?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's a support. All right. I was going to say, what is she working on? But, okay.
Us.
Megan, I saw in the.
Boca is you can turn your camera on if you want to, or it's okay if you don't want to.
Problem is, there might be some people who are sitting in pajamas. You don't know where they're joining from all over the world, right? Maybe sometimes you don't want the camera on.
Can I just add one more? So, for example, identify the purpose of your markup or why you want to mark up your data. It's another way of helping your data become fairer. Because under your ID,
exposing it.
Yeah. And yeah, so data discovery, but changing metadata with other repositories, which is the interoperability, I guess. Because the fair movement is quite big, people will be wanting to do that just to be fair.
Yeah, I mean, you can imagine some scenarios where people just want to expose their data, just their data set to go to Google dataset search, and they're not interested in extra levels of detail to help the community. So I think that recommendation is about being specific about exactly what you want, and targeting that. Tell me if I'm wrong, because it's been a long time since I read the recommendations.
Yeah. In this respect, I'm wondering, because I'm not aware of this, is there already repositories that are harvesting this this kind of schema.org annotation on pages, except for Google Dataset Search? Yes.
So,
yes, we did a prototype. So last plenary, I had a screenshot. We crawled this structured data from about 10 repositories. And then I shown a screen down, and people want to access that link. So I asked my development team to write, and only 2 days ago, I asked them, say, can you turn that server on? Probably I can show people, not just the Google, but research community can do that as well. But yeah, it was too late, and they put in their backlog, then say, 1 week.
So this means that it's not this is a possibility that that would be, I think, very interesting, but it's not really implemented in real life.
So
yeah.
Sorry, did you want to say something?
No, go on, Nick, and I'll.
Okay. So there's obviously different communities using this kind of strategy, and one of them is Biochemers. And for Biochemers, I'm on the kind of steering council for that. And one of the tools we want to develop is some sort of harvesting aggregation of life science resources that we know are implementing various Biochemers types. So there's different types for proteins, that kind of experimentation, that kind of thing. Taxons, there's all these different types and profiles. And one of our objectives is to build a tool to scrape those. So our original strategy was to have this adopted by Google. So like you say, it would be all harvested by Google and you'd be able to use it immediately. But that process has been quite slow. I think it's actually improving a little bit now. I think we're making some progress. But we decided that even if Google didn't do it, because we wanted it and it's useful, we were going to build our own tool to do that and kind of host that data somewhere to allow people to search it. And there's also work in progress So I work basically for Elixir in the interoperability platform. And one of the things that we have there is participation in a project called EOSC Enhance, which is building kind of systems and processes to help populate the EOSC, the European Open Science Cloud. I guess you guys probably know about it, right?
Yes.
So what we, yeah, I think everyone knows about it.
Project that is coming up, yeah.
Okay, so what we're doing through there is we're going to kind of leverage Biochemers markup and work through OpenAir. I don't know if you know about OpenAir. So this, work kind of pipe our Biochemers marked up resources, pipe the metadata through OpenAir into EOSC, and that's the kind of demonstrator we're building now. I mean, we're having discussions about exactly how to do it, whether we harvest directly from the resources themselves or go through an intermediary catalog. So in the life sciences, there's a catalog called Fair Sharing, which hosts metadata about individual resources, and they would be able to tell us which Biochemers profile is being implemented on the resource web pages, so that then something like OpenAir, using their service description templates, I think it's called SDTs, we would do a mapping between those, point them to the resource, and they could harvest directly. So that's the kind of process we're thinking of. And then obviously the step from OpenAir to the EOSC, we haven't defined yet, but that's the step that OpenAir and EOSC themselves will define. Okay. So we ship it to OpenAir. So all those things are being thought of and developed, and the Biochemers kind of harvesting, that tool is being built by internally.
And just out of curiosity, EUDAT with the B2 share services or things like that, are they part of this work or?
Not directly. I don't know whether any of that comes in through OpenAir or not. I'm not that familiar with B2 Find and B2, whatever the other Bs are.
Unfortunately, this is the one I'm working with.
Yeah. No, I kind of imagine a scenario where, I mean, if you have a defined type, equivalent to Biochemers or Science on Schema or whatever other ones you've developed specifically for a community, I can imagine that it should be quite simple to build a harvester that would go query the profile, which is defined somewhere, and then point it to a resource and know exactly what to harvest and what it maps to and put it somewhere, right? It should be, logically, it's very simple.
Yeah, but this is probably something that we want to do, but we are early in the process, as I said.
Yeah, exactly. So I think, I can imagine it would start off with, individual communities building their own tools, but ultimately, as these things become more popular, and maybe Google then says, okay, look, everyone's doing this, why don't we just do it for everyone? Or, maybe the EOSC does it. EOSC says, look, we've got all this stuff coming in, we can go and harvest this ourselves and have it up to date instead of relying on all these kind of scheduled, updates from catalogs. We just have it live. You can just do live query, right? If you've got stuff pre-indexed, you know where it is, just do a live query.
Yeah. And like the link I put in chat is from that was a webinar given about 2 weeks ago. I think Adam Shepherd is our co-chair of this group, and his ESIP community developed this very detailed guideline on the syntax implementation of those vocabulary. So you see the data one here in this webinar promotion materials. That data one is also going to harvest metadata, structured data, because you save people double work, and they already published to on the web, then and they also have to maintain the OLP image to data one. That's exactly the situation we are having. But the issue we are having for our repository, because we have a national data catalog, Research Data Australia, we have not just the data, but also software or other resources. At the moment, those upstream repositories, they just publish metadata for data, not the other resources. If they switch off, they can't switch off OLRPMH, because if they switch off, we lost other metadata and lost the linkage between data and other resources. So that's that's the kind of situation we are waiting. If our partners are willing go to not just the one step, several steps ahead of what Google promoted to use the structure.
There is this, like, I went to the metadata group session. The metadata where they look into, you know what, keep your metadata your metadata elements in a schema and then publish them in several different schemas. So this world operates in different modes. So schema.org is a quite simple solution for many of the data centers that can publish. It's more straightforward. But for example, have to publish in data. So you still have to do the DCAT equivalent in another, either condensation or in another URI. There are still a lot of things that you have to maintain by doing that. And like, I think Baptiste asked of who is harvesting this. And I accidentally was testing. I didn't know that when I was testing for fairness, some of our data
come back.
Okay,
are we back to
wrap
this?
up.
Okay. Okay.
Sorry,
Okay.
yes, a lot of effort required from repository, to draw different.
It's just maybe have it in mind that publishing in schema.org could be another tick on the fairness, because several not been developed yet can actually give you the tick. The old tools that were there give you a good tick when you actually have schema.org on your HTML page. So they are harvested as structured data. So just have it in mind and it could be a good case to promote fair data with having just the JSON on the page. And I stop.
Thank you. I put in the notes now.
that was really fast. That breakout has just flown past. But Alexandra, you should come and join us in one of our monthly meetings.
I will definitely. Mingfang is our tab liaison, aren't you? On the vocabulary services. So the group we co-chair is the vocabulary service interest group. But I've always wanted to join your group, so I'm really keen. I know Adam.
So the current meeting time is pretty late for probably European people. We may have a doodle poll after the plenary for new meeting time. Okay. So we have to go back. Thank you.
Nice meeting you.
How do you go back?
You click exit, you will be automatically go back.
Okay. So we
exit.
You press exit. Okay.
Yeah.